Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us from wherever you are joining in your part of the world today. We're looking forward to spending the time with you and teaching some tools of Power BI. So today it will be an overview of BI Analytics, and our presenters will be Byron Biggie and Tim McManus. If you have any questions, let's get to some housekeeping items. Byron, if you could go to the next slide. The session is being recorded and will be placed up in our Lunch and Learn Learning Center after the presentation in case you want to refresh yourself on something or share it with someone in the future. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please put them in the Q&A and we will do our best to respond to all of those questions and address them while we are in the presentation. And let's see, that should about cover it. If you have any questions after the presentation, you're welcome to reach out to us at info@aitbusiness.com. And with that, I would like to invite Byron to begin the presentation. Byron?
Cool, thank you, Heather. And Heather, you'll be monitoring the question, the chat, I guess, as questions come in as we go, right?
I will, yes. Tim and I will be monitoring them and doing our best to respond to them, but then we will interject if there is something that would go along timely with what you're speaking about that you could answer right then and there as well.
All right, perfect. All right, so thanks for joining, everyone. I'm sure your days are busy these days getting ready for Christmas and stuff, so we appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend an hour with us. And today we're going to talk about data analytics against your SyteLine data using Power BI as one of the available tools. So our agenda today is really pretty simple. Overall, we're going to talk about really visibility of your SyteLine ERP system data. So you have access to it as an on-prem kind of case customer, but the bigger challenge is really providing visibility to it and managing that visibility. And so today we want to talk through some of that, and we'll just review some of the options that are typically available that we kind of commonly see. And most importantly, we'll look at some tangible examples. It's always helpful to kind of hear and see what other people are doing, and just to help collectively the overall community, and to show you some examples and things that you could possibly do. So some of the typical challenges that we hear and statements that we hear, things like, yeah, I can get to my data, I have access to SQL and I can get to it all, but it's a little overwhelming. What do I do next with it? I need a way to kind of take it to the next level and publish it or share it out with users. Dataviews are okay, but I need something a little more than a data view, something to take it to the next level. And I need to do it in a way that helps me manage it, right? So how can I manage the requirements around this kind of area that come from either users not only requesting reports, but requesting reports, in multiple ways on, multiple different basis or sorting basis of the reports, and controlling who has access to that content. How do I keep the content current and push it out to the audience? and do it in a way, all of this in a way that's really sustainable on a practical level, right? That I can manage and not have it become dependent on just one person, right? And create bottlenecks in the organization where everybody has to come through me or my team or something, right? A small um, uh, restrictive group of people, right? That all the users have to funnel through, and then we end up just feeling, overwhelmed and bombarded. So that's kind of the general challenge, I guess, that we hear commonly and that we see. People have access to the data, but they need just kind of a better way to share it and publish it and manage that. So to that end, as you may know, there's a variety of solutions out in the landscape of the marketplace. These are some typical ones that we see. Of course, as you may know, Burst is Infor BI product. It can connect to your on-prem data, optionally as well. If you're a cloud customer, that's really the main solution that's available to you and where you should focus efforts there. But for on-prem customers that have access to their backend SQL data, we see solutions developed on a variety of different platforms. These are just a few of them. Tableau, ClickView, Focus, Crystal Reports, of course, is still out there with various solutions. And then the one that we'll be focusing on today and showcasing is Power BI from Microsoft. So that's just some of the typical ones that we run into. And so today we want to actually spend some time and show you some examples. It's always helpful to see what other people are actually doing, in a tangible way, and how you might be able to use it in your solution as well. And so to that end, we've tried to, in an effort to provide some relief, we've developed some foundational kind of base models in Power BI, some base content, if you will, around different key parts of the business to serve as kind of a jump start for you, a foundation that you can build on and run with. So something that can get you out of the gate quickly, up and running, and then likewise serve as a platform to expand upon going forward. So areas like sales, inventory, purchasing, financials, and like general ledger analysis, service management, manufacturing side of the business, jobs and job statuses and order statuses, et cetera. Shipping and logistics and how it interfaces with SureShip. And then a sysadmin one that looks at more some housekeeping areas of the system and audit logging and being able to demonstrate compliance with audit logging and that type of thing as well. So those are just a few of the areas that we've been able to focus on. We're not going to be able to cover all of these today. We'll just start at the top with sales kind of as a showcase, and I'll walk you through some concepts and a few examples. You'll get the idea and how those will really apply to any of these models, but we'll probably focus on the first 2 or 3 just as an example there. But so those are just some of the background ones. So before we dive in too deep, I want to just do a quick overview just to make sure everyone has a kind of a common starting point here. So Power BI is a subscription-based solution from Microsoft. It's user-based. They have a per month user subscription starting as low as I think basically like $10 a month, and for their kind of base level. And it really connects to a variety of data sources. In our case, we're going to connect it to SQL Server data, but it can connect to a spreadsheet or all kinds of different data sources. But conceptually, we're just going to connect it to our data, and there's an authoring piece of it, which you'll see here in a moment. But just understand there's a desktop application, Power BI desktop, that's really, you can think of that as the main authoring tool or place where you as the author would build and kind of construct this content. And the idea is that you would next share that or publish that content up to the PowerBI.com portal. And so with your subscription, you would get a login and a kind of a sandbox, if you will, in the portal to which you would publish your content. And then optionally, that data can be configured. You can set it up so that that content in the portal is refreshed on a certain frequency of your preference, but it can be maintained on the portal side. And then finally, from that that portal kind of area, you can choose to publish out content to users. Okay, so that's kind of the hierarchy. You'd build it on the desktop, publish it to the cloud, and then manage the sharing and permissions from the cloud side. Okay, so I'll show you a couple examples of that, but just conceptually, that's kind of the direction we're headed. And just a few key concepts I thought I'd mention to keep in mind as we look at this and some of the differences between Power BI as compared to what I'll call traditional reporting, something that's certainly any like page-based reporting or even PDFs or that kind of thing. Something that's more static is, users need to understand that this is a more interactive tool. And so you can actually interact with the data. Choosing different data points will cause it to kind of react and filter to associated data points. So we commonly get that aspect from users where they're not used to that. They really like that feature, but at first it's not always obvious that they can interact with the data. It's very dynamic. You can drill down and around and see different aspects of it, which again, users are not always initially looking for or expecting. And collectively, so therefore kind of requires a little bit of a different mindset when you look at these things. They're not just simply static. They're very interactive. And so the user kind of has to think differently and almost like along the lines of like having a conversation with your data, and where you might just kind of be thinking to yourself, well, what were my sales this year, and then maybe this customer, and then what kind of products did this customer buy? So just like you might interact or have a conversation with someone, you can actually kind of think of navigating through these reports almost like having a conversation. Just by way of mechanics, so the different object types, and you'll see some examples of these, but these are some terms that Power BI uses. You'll hear or see the term visualizations. And so those are collectively just kind of graphs or visuals. They could be charts, graphs, not too unlike things you're probably used to in Excel or Word, where you insert a chart or something into your document. But so that's one of the object types that we'll be talking about. Power BI does use the term reports, and reports are really a place where you build a collection of these visualizations, and they live on different pages of the report. You can see here my attempt to kind of indicate these different pages, which you'll see down the left, and I'll show you an example in a moment. But just keep in mind that term reports. Some people are kind of surprised at that. They always think of things visually in terms of calling them a dashboard. But even though they are visual in nature, Power BI calls it a report initially, and then it does use the term dashboards to really indicate or describe collection of different data points across multiple reports. So that's kind of the the distinction within Power BI anyway of what they call a dashboard, even though you and I might think, all of this stuff kind of collectively is very dashboard-ish, and kind of wouldn't it all be called a dashboard, but the mechanics and the objects within Power BI, dashboards and reports are actually two different object types, two different things. So just keep that in mind. And as we go forward, I'll try to show you a couple examples of both, but just something to keep in the back of your mind. So without further ado, we will switch gears and try to show you some tangible examples of this. And I'll switch gears over to my other sandbox here, my demo setting, and show you a couple examples. So as we go along, Heather, if there's questions or you guys have questions, make sure and let me know, but I'll show you, I thought I'd show you a couple examples from, call it two different perspectives, if you will. One from the portal side, the online side, and then I'll show you an example from the desktop side, so you get an idea of those same objects from two different points of view. So here I am in the PowerBI.com portal. I'm logged in under my account, and as a subscriber, I get access to various things, and it has these things called workspaces, which are just kind of different. Might think of them like folders in which I could keep various things that I'm kind of working on, and just want to segregate, different little sandboxes here. These are some of my different models that I have segregated here. So if I click on my sales one, I get a little visual representation, which is kind of cool, kind of helpful. That just kind of visually shows me that I'm connected fundamentally to my base SQL Server data, which is connected through my data model, my Power BI data model that I built, against which I have a report here that's connected to that data model that I can manage. From here, I can manage the sharing and publication of this out to different users. I can control what they can see, how much of it they can see, whether they could download it, share it, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of different bells and whistles, but all of that can be controlled from here. To launch it, I simply click the little arrow here, and we'll take a look at an example of the sales model. So pull this in and present it here. So this is the initial page of our sales report. This collectively is known as a report. On the report, we have multiple pages represented here on the left. As I click down through them, I'll get different presentations of different data in different manners as we decided, but conceptually, I get different pages on the report, kind of similar like you would think of it in Excel. And those pages are comprised of these different visualizations that have been built, across the different data points. So, so we'll just park here kind of on this first page initially and talk about a couple of concepts that I mentioned earlier. One of which was it being interactive. And so initially when you land on this page, new users may kind of think, wow, it's kind of interesting, lots of colors, it's pretty and stuff, but it's not typically something they would just kind of charge off and start exploring and clicking around. But that's actually where Power BI shines, is to engage with the report, with the data on an interactive basis. So lots of different ways you can do this, but one example is in looking at sales here, we have just a couple high-level data points, looking at top 10 customers by sales dollars, top 10 items by sales dollars, top 10 customers by percent concentration. So do I have a large percentage of my business that's one customer or another? Likewise, top 10 items by concentration. Is my business comprised of a disproportionate, percent of just one item versus another? And then some GP dollars metrics here. And then within that, I can kind of filter this. I might want to look at all of those, call it different data points, but over, a certain date range. So I can just very, quickly, easily, I can alter the date range and to, based on whatever I, as a user, whatever I'm looking for. And then within that date range, if let's say whatever that was my date range, now I'm looking at coordinated bicycles, or here's my top 10. I might be interested in saying, well, what is this guy buying? I can click these data points. And as I click a data point, the report will dynamically cross-filter and adjust to all the associated data points that are related to what I just selected. So in this case, I'm looking at top 10 items, and when I click a particular customer, I see their portion, I guess, of what's represented here by these top 10 items. And likewise, I can see that item's concentration and what my GP performance has been for those. I could say, well, that's kind of interesting. If I want to just continue and kind of like have a bit of a conversation here, I could click this data point again just to unselect it and maybe see what the next guy's doing. How does his, kind of product mix relate? It's kind of interesting. Maybe this guy down here, what's this guy been buying? How about this guy? Right, so just very quick, very interactive. This guy's buying a little bit of a different product mix. Kind of interesting. Okay, click it again to unselect. But maybe I want to look at it from this perspective. Maybe I want to see, well, what about this particular item here? If I click that item, it'll likewise cross-filter the other direction and tell me that now the top 10 customers that are buying, in this case, this particular widget that I chose. Click it again to unselect. Did I unselect it? There we go. Maybe this guy. Right, so you get the idea. So the takeaway here is that it's very dynamic and interactive, much more so than the new users are initially, expecting or used to. Kind of a different animal that they haven't dealt with when they're used to dealing with just static reports. So that's one real benefit that we've seen. I mean, users just really flock to it and migrate towards it, and they really like that feature. And so just conceptually that ability to interact with something at whatever level, I could be down here at the GP level and seeing all other associated data points based on whatever I chose at that point. And so as a concept, that remains in place as we go forward then through any of these visuals. So the next one here is just a way to look at your historical sales data in a comparative way, and it gives you a bit of a high level metric. So you can use any of these objects here, which are just called slicers. You just think of it as a way to filter your data. So I could say, well, I'm looking for something in the year 2015. And I want, whatever, I want all the months of 2015, or if I wanted just the first quarter, I could click 1 month, hold down my control key and click, control. There we go. Hold down my control key and click the first quarter there. If I wanted to see that relative to certain end users, I have that option here as well. But so again, very interactive. I have the ability to see summary, or more detailed data from the summary here. If I click this, I can drill down in this presentation to customer. And then from that customer, I think I can actually get down to an actual invoice number here. That's as deep as we're going. Could you build something that drills you all the way down to the item for that customer on that invoice? Yes, of course. Just this is, one example and one presentation. But again, very dynamic and responsive. If you wanted to drill down on larger amounts of data, you have the ability up here in the kind of the upper side of this object to click this little kind of like pitchfork looking guy. Will just drill down, everything down to the next level, all the way across, in our case, different months here. If I'm done looking at that level of detail, I could just drill it all up and just roll it up. I say, okay, that's interesting, but I wonder what are my other choices. This way, I could drill these down as well. I could drill down the columns, so I could have the option to open up columns as well. And then optionally by month. I said, that's kind of interesting, but now I want to compare, and this is one example of something that's really helpful, but maybe I want to do a quarterly comparison across multiple years. So I can just right from this report, this mechanism, right? The user can just select, how much or how little they want to see. So rather than having to build a monthly report, a quarterly report, an annual report, that kind of thing, and push out different versions, I can push out one kind of common model. And by just introducing the user to these concepts, they can see it, multiple different ways and answer multiple different levels of questioning, all from one model, without having to manage and push out different versions. So that's just one kind of quick example. Once I'm done kind of analyzing and kind of playing with the data that way, and I want to just kind of roll back for each slicer here, you can see this little kind of eraser head. It looks like a eraser on your pencil. You can just click that and it'll just, kind of clear those filter restrictions and get you back to, to wide open, unfiltered use. And, off you go. You can do all of that. In addition, filtered by a particular customer if you wanted, or likewise a group of customers as well. I could cherry pick, a range or distinct values in this customer list as well. So very.
Hey, Byron.
Yeah.
I know that there are quite a few sections that you kind of wanted to show everyone that's joining us today. So I wanted to just mention that we are starting to run thin on time in case you wanted to move to the next section.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So I kind of use that one to show you conceptually how that's going to work. Everything that we see will kind of, behave in a similar fashion. I want to show you real quick the desktop side of this. You, as the author, might get a call from a consumer, let's say, that has this kind of view of the report and says, hey, can you make this certain change for me? And so you, as the author, you would have access to the desktop side. So I want to show you just real quick. This is the exact same content from the desktop side, and where you could add different visualizations, change the behavior. the presentation of the tabs is slightly different. It's just at the bottom, across the bottom here, visually. But this is where you, as the author, could make those changes, and you can see the publish button right here is what I kind of pointed to earlier, where you would then save and publish this content up to the service, which would then make it immediately available to go out to whoever the audience was that you selected. So in this case, let's say you got a call from somebody that says, "Hey, can you?" And we'll just use some kind of example here, where you get a call and they need something added to the report, right? And they say, "Can you just call attention to this or that?" This is kind of a lame example, but I just want to give you an idea. So I got to add something to this report. I'm going to just park it up here and just change this, whatever, and it's gonna sit right there, and it's gonna be bold and whatever, red. Okay, so in this little example, I just added something, in this case, just a text box. But just to give you an idea of how quickly you can deploy and share this stuff out to users. So in this case, I made this change, and I want to just publish it out. It's going to ask me to save my changes first, and it's going to ask me which workspace I want to put it in. So in my account, I have those different kind of folder workspaces that we saw. This is the one I want to drop it in, my sales one. That's where I want to push it to. And it's going to say, "Hey, you already have one there. Do you want to replace it?" Yes, I do. So it's going to republish this report up to the portal. One second here.
While that's republishing, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to add them to the Q&A, and we are going to try and leave some time at the end of the presentation for any further questions as well.
Okay, so that republished. I don't know, took what, 20 seconds or so. Anyway, so once that's republished, so then if we kind of switch hats here back to call it the user side, and I'm a user here, and you could have this shared out to an audience of 10 or 20 folks, whatever. But the next time that they, as consumers, either access that content or refresh their browser, they're going to just seamlessly receive that newest updated version of the report. All right, so here's my little new and improved, my simple example, but just to demonstrate, as you as the author, have that very seamless and very rapid capability to push out changes. And this really, we've seen, really drives acceptance and adoption of the platform, and really helps you as the power user, IT kind of manager, be extra responsive to the requests of users. Okay, so one quick example there, so you can see purchasing. We have a base model that you might be interested in for purchasing. Again, just kind of key metrics around the purchasing side of the business, all interactive like we saw before. I won't go into all this kind of stuff, but some basic kind of things, some of which you can do in SyteLine, not all as easily. Here's one that looks out at your POs that are due out in the next 7 days, just to give you kind of a weekly snapshot, just a quick go-to, point of reference on the purchasing side. That's just a quick look at purchasing. We'll look at inventory real fast, just to give you an idea there. So we'll start at a summary. So here's one just at a very high level, right? I want to just kind of have a place where I can go to help me keep my arms around the inventory side of the business, valuation, quantities across different product code levels and family codes here. In this case, we're showing just the valuation summary by product code across different, in this case, warehouses. And so I have the ability to just kind of quickly see where my kind of concentration of value is. A lot of times you have a sense of this already as managers of the business, but it's helpful to see a distinct, confirmation. I got 2% of my inventory values tied up in these whatever mountain bikes. I want to see, well, what are those particular widgets? I could drill down to that and see, which one it is. If it's just one or concentrated on a group of them. What else? So if I had anything that's obsolete, just again, a way I can just quickly keep my arms around, value of anything flagged as obsolete, slow moving, et cetera. And then as you go down here, there's different kind of things that you can look at. Here's a inventory quantity one that basically, again, shows you items across warehouses. You have the ability to filter the basis of any of these based on, any of these choices here. Maybe I'm just looking for interested in purchased ones or manufactured ones at this moment. But I can look at anything that's on hand. So here's our quantity on hand. And if I land on that item and just select that row, I'm going to immediately see over here the associated location detail for that, in this case, that quantity on hand. Right. So one of the comments that we get is really how impressed people are with the performance of it. It's actually pretty snappy, pretty responsive. I can click around and I get pretty instant response. I can just navigate up through here. Right, so pretty easy in that direction. It's got a lot of similar Excel kind of functionality where I can click a column header, to double click it to sort it. Right, you can sort it based on these. You can up here in the corner you have different options that you can set to change the sorting order of things. So very flexible there as well. So that's just kind of a very basic, but a quick look at the inventory side of things. We want to look at, here's a financial one for those of you that wear the financial hat. Hopefully bring you a little relief on the financial side, analyzing the GL transactions and such. Initially, just some high-level metrics around balances. Do you have any customers on hold, and kind of what your AR balance concentration is. Quick look at your AR aging. And this one's kind of subtle. You can get this various ways out of CSI. Of course, run an AR aging report or download something off one of the grids, but you can't as quickly get just a quick percentage. So if you want to look at just who your largest customers are and realize, oh, this guy's 15% of my total AR, this guy's 7%. That's not as quick to get out of base SyteLine. Or maybe you have concentration by different countries. So you want to see, well, what's my kind of exposure with Australia for whatever reason, or the UK. Just seemingly simple things, but things, if you have to do that repetitively on a monthly basis for your bank reporting or compliance or borrowing base, takes just some time to get to that point, whereas here you can get to it very seamlessly. What else? General ledger analysis. This will allow you to see kind of a combination of your detailed general ledger at the top and then more of a summary view at the bottom. So if I'm looking for a particular GL account, I can not only see its like all the details up here, but I can still retain a sense of kind of comparative, summary data here without getting lost in simply all the data. Typically, if I'd want to see a bit of a summary, I'd have to export this to Excel and then, sort it and sum it and pivot table it, etc. So this eliminates, some of that that repetitive kind of non-value add effort that you have to go through oftentimes just to answer a lot of the same basic questions over and over. So that is an overview of some of the data models. And again, these are just meant to serve as kind of an initial platform and a springboard that you can optionally use to build your solution out. I'll show you real quick. This is another example of a structure where I have multiple models, multiple reports here, all linked to a common data model, and then a dashboard. Like I referred in the beginning, the idea of a dashboard was that it contains kind of excerpts, or think of it as highlights of various reports. So you as an executive, you might want to see just certain selected pieces of some of these reports as a summary. And so we've built this little dashboard here. And so if you go, like in this example, to something here called this executive dashboard, it really represents, let's see if I can shrink this down a little bit, really represents kind of a cross section, I guess, across multiple different reports, multiple different data points, right? So I can kind of monitor this on a day-to-day basis. And then if I want to drill into something, if I see, this total inventory value, let's say, I can click that object and it will drill me back into the source report that comes from, in this case, the inventory report. So it's going to take me back to that report and that data element. So that is.
Hey, Byron, I have some questions, actually, if you have time.
I'll try, sure.
Okay, great. So what you're showing right now is the portal. Is that accurate?
At the moment, yes. This is on the website or the portal side, yeah.
Okay, great. And so who can see the portal? Is that something that's just internal for the customers, or can it be shared externally with vendors or external customers, for example?
Great question. Yeah. So so sharing or permissions are granted. So nobody can see any of this content unless you grant it. So it's up to you as the kind of gatekeeper and the author and holder of the Power BI content, who, if anyone, you want to share any of this content with. So it's not just automatic out there. So in this case, we're looking at, if I click home, this is my personal, right? Good morning, Byron. This is my kind of landing page for my Power BI account. I happen to be have some content that I've developed that I have sitting out here, and so I see that my content and what it is and what kind of folder it's sitting into. but nobody else has access to this unless I grant it.
Okay, perfect. And so all of the items that are shown, that you've shown so far today, are they pre-built and plug and play deployment modules for purchase, or do you have to build these from scratch for each customer?
These are pre-built. These are pre-built models against base SyteLine CSI tables. So against the base schema. So these are pre-built, plug and play, basically ready to go models. And these will work in against your base CSI data. Now, things that they aren't pre-built to do out of the box is to just automatically pick up any of your customizations or personalizations. So if you have a dozen UETs that you've built and you're typically used to using, there's nothing automatically that's going to just know that you have a dozen UET fields and how they should be used. So that aspect of it, if you needed downstream here, whatever, if you wanted to tailor this, but that kind of goes to the earlier point that it at least serves as a foundation and a springboard that you can use to then you would just open this up in the desktop authoring app and add your personal twist to it, I guess, if you will. But all that to say, I'll describe it as 95% plug and play, and then you have the ability to add your additional preferences to it.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate you answering those questions. It looks like there's a question that has come in. They are saying, if we want to know more about this tool, do we have to talk to Microsoft or SyteLine?
Great question. So a couple of things. So number one, so Microsoft Power BI is that's a Microsoft product, and it's sold on a subscription basis. The great thing about it is you can go and just check it out. I think they even have a trial that you can sign up for, and it gives you 30 days or 60 days free trial. And with that, you'll get, of course, basically an account and a little, kind of sandbox that you can begin building some stuff in. And then, like anything else, there's different levels of their subscription based on your preference as to capacity and frequency and different kind of things down the road. But it's pretty impressive. I mean, right out of the gate, how complete it is and how readily usable it is, just at the most basic subscription level, which I think is Power BI Pro is what they call it, I think. And it's like $10 a month. So that's the Power BI part of it. That would be directed and pointed to your on-prem, SQL data. So you would need a Power BI. That's your tool that you're going to use, and you're going to connect that to your backend data through SQL. So it's really not a function necessarily of Infor or CSI. Doesn't require a CSI user or a login in that respect. So it's really just getting a Power BI subscription and getting access to your database.
Right. Okay. And so talking about data, how frequently does the data get refreshed? Is this something that is live, matched up to their live instance, or how does that part work?
So data refreshes are configurable, and there's, as you can imagine, there's a variety of choices along that kind of spectrum. There is an option to do a direct connected model. The idea there would be to give you, live data. There's pros and cons with that, and which you can explore or we can talk about later. But and then there's an import data approach, which basically says that the system's configured to basically import or refresh at a certain interval of time, and that interval can be configurable. The base subscription, I think, allows you up to eight refreshes a day. So, and then as you go up in subscription levels, you can get it up to almost like the minute or every 5 minute kind of a thing.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, we've had great success with it. I mean, users are pretty thrilled to get data that's updated even hourly, let alone live.
Right.
A lot of times they've been trying to get data, different ways for a long time. So to have it updated, on the hour is way exceeds their expectations just at that level.
I bet. Yeah, it seems like that would be very helpful. So I know a lot of the content that you're showing today is something that we've developed, right? But as far as the reports are concerned, who would maintain them? Is that something the customer would maintain, or would AIT maintain them? How would that part work?
So these would be models that you as the customer would maintain and could build upon and modify going forward. Again, these are just really starting points, and that you can use to expand upon. But yeah, there's nothing per se that needs to be maintained. Um, there's no kind of monthly updates or uplifts or any of that kind of stuff. As you know, if you've done any kind of report development and metrics and stuff, it's a very iterative process where you're going to kind of embark down this path, and it's going to be a process, and you're going to change things along the way. Hence, kind of understanding how fluid and how rapid you can do that. But it's really up to you. So it's really up, different customers have different kind of bandwidth and appetite for this kind of stuff. It really depends on you, but either way, these are just some things you can use to get you started.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, every customer has different and unique needs, so I could see that it's not necessarily a one size fits all as far as being able to answer who would maintain them, right? Some customers might be busy enough that they would rather call in and say, hey, Byron, we need to make this change. Can you make this happen for us, right?
True. Yeah.
And then, so is there training on how to maintain and change the pre-built reports? Is that something that you can do? Could a customer schedule for training like that?
It is something that we can do, that we can provide. I mean, one of the great things about this platform, in my opinion, I mean, there's so much material out there that's available. Again, like anything else, it just takes time. So if you have the time to study and kind of the appetite to pursue that kind of stuff, there's a lot of resources out there. We can, of course, help you with that and provide help, maybe even just on an initial basis to help get you up and running. But, so it's really, whatever you're comfortable with and whatever the needs of the client are.
Awesome, thanks. Can these be built to include SyteLine personalization data points?
Yes.
Sweet.
Yeah. Once the data is, once it's built and becomes part of the schema, it's available in the model. It doesn't make it, automatically fall into a presentation or fall into a visualization, right? So I have data kind of available in the back end, but it's up to us as the authors to, to choose it and decide how to display it and where it's going to live and all that. But from an availability standpoint, yeah, absolutely. Once it's part of the schema, then it'll flow forward into the available model.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Well, with that, I think we need to start wrapping it up. I know that there's another question that's come in, specifically asking about pricing. If you are not on Power BI yet and you are interested in something like that, please feel free to reach out to us and we would be happy to discuss the pricing and what kind of benefits it would be for your company other than what you've already just learned about today. And we can get you moving forward on it. I know that you wanted to wrap up a little bit more, right, Byron?
Yeah, so I was just going to run through a quick list here just for reference. So key benefits that we've seen, I mean, no upfront costs. There's no infrastructure, no servers or hardware, software you have to buy, which is really great. You can keep the costs incremental as needed, as you grow and as you gain user adoption, you can roll it out to more users as needed. Rapid implementation, and I mean like days or hours that you can get this connected and up and running versus months or God forbid years to get a solution in place and usable. Rapid deployment to users, as you saw. I mean, you as the author can be extremely responsive and deploying this out and responding to users' requests. We've seen a very high user adoption rate and satisfaction with it. I mean, they're just usually thrilled with getting updated data and in something that's usable, very interactive and dynamic data that answers a lot of questions like you saw sometimes instead of where you may previously be maintaining multiple versions of a report. We can solve it this way and giving them the choice of how they want to see it and, maybe seeing it both ways. Very fast and responsive performance in the web UI and does not require a CSI license. These might not even be CSI users. They might be salespeople that, or whatever, they're out on the road. They don't even really touch CSI. You just want to push out high-level metrics, summaries, bookings, data, whatever, to them, and they're not even on CSI. So that it works really well there. There's a free mobile app, works on any device, and you can quickly respond to your user requests. So anyway, so with that, we'll wrap it up. We're here to help. If you have questions or kind of you're on your own journey there, you want to just talk about various options, let us know. And that's all I had.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Byron. I appreciate it. We definitely got to learn a lot about Power BI today. Thank you for providing such detailed information and walking everyone through it. So I hope that everyone that attended today that's already on Power BI was able to learn some takeaways, and anyone that isn't already, again, if you have questions or would be interested in getting this set up for your company, please reach out to us so that we can start those conversations. If you have any other questions, you're welcome to reach out afterwards to info@aitbusiness.com, where our phone number is also listed there as well. You can follow us on social media, and thank you very much for attending and joining us today. Thank you, Byron, as well for the presentation.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Have a great day.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays, everyone.